Celebrity culture is not a new phenomenon. It didn't start with Hollywood or the internet, but much longer before. The terms and modern meaning of celebrity and star became widespread in the 18th century. If you ever wonder, what have the Romans done for us? There's plenty to be said, but one that gets often forgotten: we share the Romans' thirst for celebrity. Welcome to History Facts. Today we will look at what it means and what life as a Roman celebrity might have looked like. We didn't have the modern concept of celebrity or stars that we do today, but that doesn't mean that they didn't look similar. People of all walks of life, from all backgrounds, crave attention and notoriety. For Romans, though, attention was not always a good thing. What does it mean to be a celebrity? One of the leads in The Clouds, a comic masterpiece by Greek playwright Aristophanes, is the philosopher Socrates. He's depicted as a money-grasping teacher of rhetoric. On the play's first performance in 420 BC, some in the audience could be heard whispering, asking who this Socrates was. To this, the real-life Socrates rose to his feet and stood in silence. This marked a critical moment in history, as it fostered, if not actively created, the concept of public recognition that we know today. While we might live in a celebrity culture, this isn't something we say lightly or often in a positive light. The cult of famousness has crept up on us somewhat unintentionally, but we've become complicit in it. Celebrities are everywhere, filling our television screens with pictures of them or the buzz of their chat. Some are famous for what they do, others are famous for their looks, and some are famous for simply being famous. While this can get jumbled up in our society, this is hardly a new phenomenon. In Rome, gladiators would sometimes reach celebrity status. Julius Caesar acquired his celebrity through military victories in Gaul and leveraged it to launch the civil war that ended the Roman Republic. In later years, the term celebrity would refer to people who acquired fame through the arts or entertainment. Celebrities would come into life simply through their lifestyle, and the idea of fame for the sake of being famous took hold around the 19th century and continues through the modern day. However, this wasn't always the case, of course. Classical culture, especially Roman culture, was marked by its obsession with fame to rival our own, not just in the sense of admiration and interest for famous people, but also in the mechanics of fame. They wanted to understand what becoming famous meant, or how someone did it. How did one become a celebrity in Rome? In ancient times, philosophers, religious leaders, soldiers, statesmen, and enslaved people alike would sometimes attain the level of fame connected with celebrity. It depends on who was famous and where they were from. Athenians celebrated philosophers and statesmen, while the Spartans celebrated soldiers. To be famous and recognizable in ancient Rome was to be powerful. These renowned figures rose to power and became household names on their sheer will alone. They didn't have the technology to share their thoughts and ideas the way we do. They had to create a name for themselves by word of mouth alike. Great emperors like Caesar, Claudius, Augustus, and Constantine were known by those they ruled. The gladiators were known for their feats of strength and the entertainment they brought others. According to the ancient rituals, as with a state funeral in Britain, the Senate of Rome would decree a solemn tribute to a national hero. A victorious general would ride through the streets in his chariot wearing a laurel wreath and purple toga. In front of him might be his spoils of victory, the loot from kings and countries he's defeated, the animals to be sacrificed, and captives in chains. Behind him came his soldiers shouting in triumph. Of course, there's more and less to triumph than meets the dazzled eye. First of all, and likely most importantly, these triumphs were not spontaneously bestowed onto victorious generals by grateful people or the Senate. Triumphs were claimed or demanded, which required a great deal of energetic campaigning, setting aside the actual fighting. They had to fight for the honor to be bestowed a triumph. none the less notable as Cicero, who wrote over 600 letters to the Senate to get them to lend their support. If the Senate refused you, as they did Cicero, the triumph is not necessarily a lost cause. But you had to go over the heads of the Senate and appeal directly to the people. Unfortunately for Cicero, neither his will nor achievements were truly that impressive. What was made clear is that these triumphs were triumphs. They were not parables of humility. They were a machine to manufacture celebrities, similar to the over-the-top display of a modern blockbuster film. These triumphant ones were formally acclaimed as the closest thing to a demigod. This phenomenon was often fleeting and had the opposite effect. Celebrity means constant attention, and in ancient times, attention from the government was not welcome. Socrates' fame led to his trial and his eventual death. Caligula became emperor in 37 AD, and his rule ended suddenly in a conspiracy. The Emperor Nero was forced to commit suicide after an opulent, garish rule that was ill-regarded and came under intense scrutiny. Though these ended in tragedy, the stories live on in infamy. What is fame without infamy? Lifestyles of the rich and famous. Understandably, the lifestyles of each meant different things. Rome had a class system similar to how we do, though we like to pretend it's not there. For Romans, like us, celebrity trumps class. Old money was no more to be revered than new money, and the Romans would see through phony claims of aristocratic descent. Nobody is to be somebody by right of heredity. These image makers would make up the somebodies. However, there are things in the societies of old that remind us of today. Rich society women would pay large sums of money for bottles of sweat and scraped skin from their favorite gladiators. Caesar ascended to power mainly through the celebrity of his conquests. Gaius Appilachius Diocles was a chariot racer and to this day is considered the highest-paid athlete of all time, though admittedly not through cash but properties, land, and objects. Meanwhile, after his suicide, Nero impersonators gained a cult-like following and attention. However, there is another side to things. When we think of celebrities today, we think of entertainers. However, in ancient Roman culture, these professionals were often subjected to the inescapable consequence of infamia. Infamia was a loss of legal or social standing, which was an official exclusion from the legal protections enjoyed by Roman citizenship. Professions like actors and dancers were held in the same regard as a prostitute, pimp, or for-hire gladiator. Actors were often born into the profession, as is typical in the society for children to take up their parents' careers. But this was an interesting one. Adding to their bad reputation, actors had full license to misbehave on stage and even mock politics, something that was not done offstage. However, if you're familiar with the history of European history patterns and trends, you might know of the avoidance of casting women in plays. This was uncommon in the early Republic, but it did happen. One actress, Acte, went on to win the favor of the Emperor Nero, becoming one of his favorite concubines. Thus, the place of actors and actresses was strangely volatile, as with every other sort of art of the profession. The infamia of entertainers and the like would not exclude them from socializing with the Roman elite, as the stars among them would often become lovers of high-profile figures like Mark Antony and the dictator Sulla. Infamous could not provide testimony in a court of law and were liable to corporal punishment, usually reserved for enslaved people. The nature of fame and celebrity has changed over the years, and our understanding of it today is vastly different from its historical meaning. People have always looked up to people who achieved a social standard above their own, hoping someday to do the same. It may have been a different landscape in ancient Rome, with different end goals and standards, but it looks the same when you get past the surface. Fame might be fleeting and fickle, but people have always wanted it, and they likely always will. This has been History Facts, and we'll see you next time.